We all have something we do well. My last name is Cook, and guess what? I cook. You may have heard it said that the proof is in the pudding, or is it the pudding? Anyway, I say the proof is in the tasting. According to Gunther with What's Cooking America, the pound cake is a British creation that dates back to the early 1700s. The name pound cake comes from the fact that the original pound cake contained a pound of butter, eggs, flour, and sugar. In those days, many people could not read, so this made it easier for them to remember. As years went by, the portions of the ingredients used were adjusted to make smaller, lighter cakes. However, the name pound cake, it stuck. According to Rumbar, baking has the reputation of being more difficult than cooking. And baking is different from cooking. A great cook may create dishes casually, working with what is in the pantry or the refrigerator, tasting and correcting the work in progress. A great baker is attentive to techniques, details, and timing, unable to taste, correct, and create along the way. The baker is a stickler for measurements, insistent on proper pan size, and fussy about the temperature for everything, including the butter. Because the same ingredients combined in a different order, mixed differently, or even used at different temperatures result in different cakes or fails. Bittman states, baking isn't magical, but sometimes it can seem that way. Nowhere else in the kitchen can you start with such a small arsenal of humble ingredients and spin them into so many remarkable things. And the transformation that happens in the oven, whew, a raw, wet batter or dough goes in, tender, golden treats emerge, filling the house with smells that are enough to make you want to be a baker. Bittman also states, baking is fundamentally communal. To bake is to create and to share. Let me tell you a story. My daughter-in-law loves pound cakes. There was this individual at school that she had been hearing about it. Everybody says, oh, she makes, in their words, a pound cake to die for. So my daughter-in-law approached her and asked her, hey, would you make me a pound cake and I'll pay you for it? The lady told her, you know what? It takes a while to make them and I'm busy. So anyway, they were having a fundraiser at school, and she heard it through the grapevine that this individual will be making her a pound cake for that fundraiser. So my daughter-in-law decided, you know what? I better make sure I have cash for that day, because normally she doesn't take cash in. So anyway, she went to the cafeteria and there was a sign that says $2 for coffee and $2 for a slice of pound cake. Or you could buy $2 for coffee and get the pound cake free. I don't understand that math. Okay, go figure. Anyway, my daughter-in-law said she paid her $2 for the coffee and received the free pound cake. At which point, she said she was so excited, you know, I'm finally going to taste this, as they said, to die for pound cake. So anyway, she took a bite of the pound cake, and she said she thought she was doing her self-talk, you know, the one where you're talking in your head. But needless to say, she was verbalizing. And what she said was, "What is this mess?" Anyway, people started turning around looking at her. And the teacher who had made the pound cake was seated a couple of seats over. So she was a little bit embarrassed. I told this story because my daughter-in-law has said that I make the best pound cake she has ever eaten. First, let's get our ingredients together. The estimated cost of these ingredients was around $6. So we know we have, according to the recipe, we have a half pound of butter, unsalted, half pound of butter, 1 2/3 cups of sugar, 5 eggs, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and of course my 2 cups of flour. Also, it requires a half teaspoon of vanilla. It says, according to Fannie Farmer's cookbook by Cunningham, to preheat the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Butter and lightly flour a 9x5 loaf pan. It says to cream the butter and the sugar. You know what? I'm going to make this cake. I'm reading these instructions, well, the way it's done here, but I do mine a little bit differently. I actually cream my butter like it says. But normally with a pound cake, the experts say that when you're using your wet ingredients, it's okay to actually use an electric mixer. This is what they say, to use an electric mixer. But it's a no-no, according to the experts, to add in your dry mix and continue to mix. What they want you to do is to actually fold it in. Okay? So, this is where I differ. I do all my wet mix like I'm supposed to. I use my electric mixer. I cream my butter. I get it to a point. Then I add my sugar slowly. Get it all nice and airy. Then I already have my eggs in here. I don't crack them one by one and then pour them. I take my eggs and I pour them in one by one. And as I'm pouring them, you know, I'm getting more aeration in it. Because what I like is the term whipped. I like a whipped cake. And the reason that I'm whipping this cake is because I want it a little bit lighter, because pound cake has a sturdy, firm texture. And I don't like it, for lack of a better word, I don't like it heavy. So I mix mine with the electric mixer from start to finish. So let's get started. Also, I didn't show you guys the salt, the half teaspoon of salt. The reason is I don't use the salt. What I use is I buy a salted butter. The reason they ask you or tell you to get the unsalted butter, because salted butter costs more. But I buy HEB's brand, and HEB's salted butter and regular butter, salted and unsalted, same price. So I skip that step of adding salt to my cake. Again, this cake I make, my daughter-in-law says it's the best she's ever eaten. I've got a lot of compliments on it. Again, the recipe calls for a ½ pound of butter. Oh, and another thing, I leave my ingredients out for 24 hours, my butter and my eggs. I know whenever you make a cake, it needs to be at room temperature, your butter and your eggs. But mine, a minimum of 24 hours. And I think that has a lot to do with how it comes out also. So we add our butter, we add our sugar gradually, we get that all nice and fluffy, mixed, blended. We start to add our eggs one by one, and in between adding eggs, we're still beating. After we get everything incorporated, we start to fold in our flour, you know, fold it in. Again, I'm still using this blender, this mixer, excuse me, getting it all mixed together. After which, we spray our pan. I use a butter spray. The recipe calls for you to use butter, but I use a butter spray. And then I flour my pan lightly. Push that all around. And I dump off the excess into the trash. When this is all put together, excuse me, I forgot. Don't forget to add your vanilla, guys. 1/2 teaspoon. When this is all put together, this is the finished product. A pound cake. Well, I'm going to say it like this. I'm not going to say to die for, but it's pretty good. So you know what? As Bitterman says, baking is fundamentally communal. So I say, enjoy.